Welcome to Parenting Unscripted. I am your host, Katie Collette. We sure appreciate you joining us today. We have such an important topic today, and it's really focused on children and how they process grief. And you may not realize it, but there is an organization right here in our community that has been created to help our children deal with their grief. And to tell us more about that is Ariana Walter of Secours Community Health. Ariana, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I know that you just got a new title, so could you tell us your title with Secours, please?
Community Health Program Coordinator.
Congratulations. Very exciting. We are focused today on the Kids and Grief program. And when I first heard about this and started researching, I was like, my goodness, this program sounds so special and like it can really make a big difference. So for those who have not heard of the Kids and Grief program, can you share a little bit about how it was created?
Sure. So Kids and Grief is a children's grief program for ages 3 to high school seniors. And it was founded in 2000 by Beth Pyle after she had done a few shorter term children's grief support groups and saw that there was a need for more consistent support. 1 in 12 children in Virginia will be bereaved by the death of a parent or sibling by the age of 18, and that number more than doubles by the age of 25. That's not including grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, or friends. So you can imagine how staggering the number really is and how needed this support is.
1 in 12 by the time they're 18. No one should have to go through that.
No.
So how does the program help children? What is the overall goal here?
So our goal isn't to make grief go away. I think anybody who has grieved knows that that's not how grief works.
Right.
So we're here to provide a safe space for children to feel seen and heard while they process that grief and find ways to move forward while still carrying it.
What is the age range? And we know we touched on ages a little, but what's the age range for children?
So the youngest is age 3, and then we go all the way up to high school seniors. And we also have 3 adult groups for our Newport News program for the guardians that bring the children.
Oh, that's amazing. And how important do you think that is to have that twofold where you're taking care of the kids, but also the adults?
I think it's incredibly important. I think that they not only are given a space for them to process their grief, but also to meet other guardians who are raising grieving children and to learn more about what that looks like and really exchange ideas.
I think that's such a brilliant idea, because you're helping children as the adult or as the guardian, but you're trying to process that grief at the same time. And so many times we forget to take care of ourselves because we're so focused on the kids. And in order to help children process grief, we really need to find a way to process it ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that that's really absolutely incredible there. So I saw that Beth, who you mentioned, Beth Pyle, who created the program, called children forgotten mourners.
Yes.
And I really think that that is such a heartbreakingly beautiful way to describe them. When children take part in the Kids and Grief program, they have to feel seen and heard. I have no doubt that that's such a huge goal of yours. Can you walk us through the different elements that are in place with that program to help them deal with the grief?
Sure. So our volunteer facilitators use a combination of art, games, stories, play, physical movement to help them process their grief. We focus a lot on telling our stories, identifying and communicating emotions, identifying healthy coping skills, and then finding ways to memorialize those that have died. And we also offer what we call the volcano room, which is an area that they can let out those bigger feelings. So we have pogo sticks, mini trampolines, jump ropes, hula hoops. We also have a life-size stuffed person named Max that they can beat up. It's just an area for them to run, yell, scream, and let out those bigger feelings in a safe way.
That has to be key, to have that opportunity, because there really are very big feelings, depending on the age or what happened. And you can go in that room and that's where it's okay to take out those aggressions.
Yes.
Do they kind of learn that? Like, okay, it's okay to do this here, but you might not want to do this elsewhere? Or how does that work?
Yes. Yeah. We're very clear that, there's no throwing except if you're in the volcano room. And even then there's rules that, you're not throwing at somebody's head or anything like that. And then also just giving them all of those things in the volcano room, but it's different than the rest of the group. The
Right.
rest of the group is in a separate room and a little calmer.
Do you see a difference? Like when kids, and I'm not going to just focus on the volcano room. I just think that it's so brilliant to have a space like that. Do you sometimes notice a difference when the kids go in versus how they're feeling and how they seem when they come out?
Yes. And sometimes if a kid is in a group and having a little bit of trouble focusing or being a little disruptive, we'll say, bring them down to the volcano room for a little extra time. And sometimes they just need to run around and yell and scream and kick Max and hit him and jump on the trampoline and get it out for a few minutes. And then they can recenter and really ground themselves.
I think it's key that you have people in your program that can recognize that. And rather than scold the child,
Right.
you're like, wait a minute, they might just need a different technique to get these feelings out. Obviously, children who, I mean, that's an age range. You said it's 3 to 12?
3 to 18 if they're still in high school.
Oh, 3 to 18. Okay, I misunderstood that. So 3 to 18 for the Kids in Grief program. That's obviously a very huge range to deal with feelings and emotions. So how do you help the youngest, 3 years old and a little older versus maybe some of those teenagers? There have to be different approaches.
Yes. So our younger groups focus a lot on simpler art projects and a lot on reflective play. They also use a lot of stories and books. And then our older groups, you start getting into more complex art projects, more discussions, writing, also still some books.
Are there specific books that you have there that help deal with grief, or are they books that don't necessarily deal with grief, but maybe can help take their mind elsewhere?
I think almost all of our books are pretty focused on grief specifically, and we have books that are appropriate for all different age ranges. We are very lucky. We have a whole little library. We have a book cart that we roll into our room for our pre-meeting that the facilitators can take books off of.
When we come back on the other side of the break, we're going to talk more about how children deal with grief of a family member, perhaps versus grief of a friend, and some of the stigmas that you are trying to help children get around to allow them to grieve properly. So everyone, be sure to stay with us. We will be right back with Ariana Walter of Bon Secours to talk more about the Kids in Grief program.
Whether you're already working in education or aspiring to, then say yes to NPS. Norfolk Public Schools are currently hiring in the following positions. NPS offers the highest salaries and sign-on bonuses in Hampton Roads, plus a work lifestyle you'll love. Say yes to NPS.
Welcome back to Parenting Unscripted, where we are continuing our conversation with Ariana Walter of Bon Secours. We're talking more about the Kids in Grief program. And Ariana, before we took that break, we were just about ready to talk about kids and if they grieve differently when it comes to a family member versus a friend, or is grief just grief?
I think I would agree with the phrase grief is grief. I think that every grief journey is really unique, and we are very lucky that our program doesn't have to put restrictions on the relationship of the person that died to the child, the cause of death, or how long ago the death occurred.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about that then. You just, and this can actually help us maybe figure that out. Who refers the children to you, and then how do you process that? Because for you, I guess you're just knowing that the children need to grieve.
Yes. So we get a lot of referrals from word of mouth, either current or previous participants, letting other people know about us. Also pediatricians, therapists, school counselors, school social workers, and family engagement specialists.
And when somebody does refer a child to you, what does that process look like? Do you have to learn about the child first? Or what are the next steps?
So they do a call, the guardian calls us, and we do a short registration call, and we gather more information about the child and what their grief is really looking like, and also information about the person who died.
Okay, so you do know a bit of the background
Yes.
before they come in, so you can understand the full story before meeting them.
Yes.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. So I read that a factor you're seeing more is a stigma that is attached to the death of a loved one who maybe died because of a drug overdose, suicide, or gun violence. What does that stigma do, have you found, to a child who just lost someone they love?
So with stigmatized deaths, children and even adults will sometimes feel like they can't talk about the person who died or how they died. Others may be focused more on how that person died versus the fact that there is somebody that is grieving that death. And one of the beautiful things about our program is that they're encouraged to share the cause of death. And there's no real comparing of, oh, well, at least your person, it was an accident and not a stigmatized death like suicide or overdose. There's no comparison with that.
So do you find your team approaches all children the same, or do you sometimes realize that kids who may be dealing with this stigma, you might have to do a little more with them?
I think that sometimes it may take a little more groundwork to build that foundation of trust and making it so that they really do understand that they're safe and they can share everything that they want to share with us.
I think it's just, I've said heartbreaking a few times, but I mean, grief is, especially when you're talking about children, but for them to feel like maybe they don't deserve to grieve, or they see someone else whose loved one died in an accident versus some other form of death that has that stigma with them. I really do find it so heartbreaking that they feel like maybe they don't deserve to grieve like others do. What approach do the people, the volunteers and everyone who you work with, what approach do they take to let them know that they do deserve to grieve that way and that it's important for them to do so?
Just really validating all of the emotions, that all of them are normal and valid, and also that their grief journey is unique and that they deserve to really work through that and grieve the person that died.
Yeah. Do you feel like adults struggle with the same problem, with that stigma and trying to get past it?
I think so. Like I mentioned, I think that sometimes others who are trying to support somebody who is grieving, they may be focused more on the cause of death than the fact that it was somebody that meant something to the people left behind.
What would your advice be for those who are trying to maybe help someone get past that stigma when it's an adult?
Just being open and being there for them no matter what.
Right. It really, it is that simple, right? Just be there for them when they need it.
And being a listener, being empathic, and not necessarily offering advice, but just lending an ear.
Yeah. I think one of the things too with the program with Kids in Grief that I found really exciting was Mikey's Camp. Can you talk to us a bit about that and share what that's like?
Yes. So Mikey's Camp is especially near and dear to my heart because it's how I got started in the program. In 2014, a friend of my husband's told us that they needed more people. And we went in not really knowing anything about grieving children or the program itself. And we saw the impact it could have and just kept coming back. And Mikey's Camp is a yearly weekend-long overnight children's grief camp for ages 7 to 17. And it's a really good combination of healing and fun. So we have the children split up based on age, and they go through different healing circles where we focus on telling our stories. We talk about emotions, coping skills, and then memorializing the people who have died. And we give opportunities to memorialize with our luminaries and our reading of the names at our Saturday night bonfire. And then Sunday, we also have our Riverside Memorial, where anybody can get up and share about their person, their name, stories about them, snippets of songs, poems. They can pass around items. I always pass around as a modeling a necklace that has my grandmother's fingerprint engraved on it. But we also give them a lot of opportunities for fun because sometimes their role in the family has changed, especially if it was a caregiver who died. Maybe there's not as much time or resources for them to be a kid. And so we have canoeing, archery, a mad science show, an inflatable planetarium, a pizza party, a game night, arts and crafts, a petting zoo, just a costume party, all of these things for them to be a kid again for the weekend. And they're paired 1-to-1 with an adult big buddy volunteer who's kind of their person for the weekend. And they exchange friendship bracelets Friday evening as a symbol of that. And their big buddy really encourages them throughout the whole weekend to really share and, get along with the others and make those connections and friendships that end up lasting.
I think that's such a valuable lesson to remind them, hey, don't forget to be a kid.
Yes.
Because you are a kid. I just, that's so beautiful. When is the camp held?
It's always the first weekend of November.
Okay. And how does the process work to finding out if you're able to go to the camp? Is there an application process, and what does that look like?
Yes, there is an application process, and it's a little more in depth than our regular program application or registration form because we do have them overnight.
Right.
And those open up in August, and we generally take 35 to 40 campers each year.
Okay. Is there a cost to attending?
No, thankfully, all of our programs are offered free of charge.
Of course, because our community is amazing. Secours is amazing. That right there. What a relief for families. When you're already struggling through grief and loss, and that there's almost always cost, not just physically and mentally, but like a true dollar cost to be able to go to a camp like this and know that your child is going to be able to act like a kid. That's amazing. At the end of the camp, can you see a difference in the children then too?
Yes. One story that always comes to mind is a girl, I believe she was 8 at the time, and she still attends, but she'd been attending for a few months our regular program and hadn't really shared. Her story was very, very detailed and a lot of nuance to it. And she came to camp the first time and went from not really sharing anything other than her own name, which is okay, to at the end of the weekend at the memorial, she shared her entire story in front of about 70 people. So we really do see the impact in such a short amount of time on these kids.
That gives me goosebumps when you realize that there has been such a breakthrough. We also, in the building, have a very special guest with us. And on the other side of the break, we're going to be able to introduce everyone to this wonderful guest. Ariana is going to explain who this is and why he is here. And we're going to do that in just a couple of minutes. So be sure to stay with us, everyone. We will be right back. Welcome back to Parenting Unscripted. I am your host, Katie Collette, and once again, we are joined by Ariana Walter of Secours Community Health. We are talking about the Kidz and Grief program. Before we took our break, we were talking about the amazing camp called Mikey's Camp, but we were also going to introduce you to this sweet little fella who you can see behind us here. Let's talk a little bit, Ariana, about this bear and the quilt, and then we'll share the full story behind it I know that you shared about a camper with their experience. Where did the bear and the quilt come from first, though?
So we had other local community organizations reach out wanting to help in really unique ways and offer tangible ways to comfort the kids. Peninsula Angel Quilters out of Newport News donated a handmade quilt for every child so that they were able to take those home. And then Cheney's Champions, another local organization that a woman started in honor of her son who died, they have donated a bear for every child.
Oh my. That's absolutely, I can't emphasize enough how wonderful our community is. That's so fabulous. You shared with me before we came on, and I was like, we absolutely must share this story with everybody. When one of the children at Mikey's camp received the bear, can you guide us through that beautiful story?
Yes. So it was, I believe he's 8, and it was the first time he attended. It was last month's camp. And at the end of the weekend, he did not want to leave. When it was time for him to get on the bus, he was crying. He was very upset. He didn't want to leave his big buddy or the facilitators or the new friends he had made. He felt safe. He felt seen. He didn't want to go. And a facilitator was speaking to him and said, anytime you think of us and you miss us, just hug your bear tight and know that we're here, that we love you. And she asked him what he had named the bear. And he said the name of his big buddy, which was just so beautiful. He hadn't met this person before. He'd known him less than 48 hours. And in that time, this person had had such an impact on him that he said, I want to be able to hug him every day. And so he named the bear after his big buddy.
That is just so incredible and so touching that he felt that sense of warmth and love and connection, which no doubt would help him grieve at home. Bravo to these local organizations that just look at that. How absolutely amazing. And that is love and effort right there, and just shows how much everybody cares. Thank you for sharing that story. I think it's so special. I also want people to understand just a bit more about Kids in Grief. We spent a lot of time on Mikey's camp, and for very good reason. But when the Kids in Grief program runs, how long is it? Is it all year? Does it run from a certain time frame?
It runs during the school year, and we generally meet twice a month on Monday evenings. And then in the summer, we do break, but we also plan a fun family event, and volunteers, kids, guardians can all come out. We usually do a pool party.
Of course, that's a blast. Yes. I love that. Are there any costs associated with that, with the actual Kids in Grief program itself?
No, thankfully, thanks to donations and grants, all of our programs are offered for free.
It's just so incredible. I know that Kids in Grief normally operates in Newport News, but you have recently expanded. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. So we're very excited that we've been able to expand into a few Portsmouth schools. And so we hold groups after school at a few elementary schools. We'd love to expand to more of them. We just need more volunteer facilitators.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest barriers to support we see is transportation, especially trying to get over the bridge on a Monday evening during commutes to get to us for our Newport News meeting. And so being able to go into the schools has really helped eliminate that barrier.
And you said, so you really just expanded. Was it just this year that you expanded into Portsmouth?
It was last year.
Okay. And the program is already full.
Yes, the schools that we are in, we are full currently.
Wow. It just shows the need. What does someone need to do if they want to be a facilitator?
So they can reach out to us, and facilitators do go through a background check. And then we also have a training that we provide for them free of charge, just to give them those skills and let them know what the groups look like, how to, redirect if needed. Our essential skills are awareness, reflection, and questions and communication. And so we really delve into that. And then also during training, we focus a little bit on our own grief journey so that we can really cultivate that self-awareness as we're helping others.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's wonderful. So they need to reach out, and then they can get all the information there. How can the rest of the community get involved? Is it the same process? Reach out and they get instructions, or what should they do?
Yes, reaching out is a great place to start. There's so many different opportunities, and there's very likely other community organizations or people that have things to offer that we wouldn't think of. We didn't think to reach out to anybody about providing tangible comfort items for the kids, like the bears and the quilts.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they reached out to us. And so things like that. Also, we do run through grants and donations. So, monetary support is always appreciated.
Yeah, that I very much so. I have no doubt about that. What would you say for you personally is the most impactful part of the Kids in Grief program? What is something that sticks with you every day when you go home?
I think the sense that they get when they realize they're not alone, when they attend for the first time, and maybe they're nervous and they don't really know what to expect. And in their groups, they do what we call our opening circle, where you say your name, who died, how they died, and then usually a fun question like, what's your favorite broccoli dish? Which sometimes the kids are like, ugh.
None of that.
Right. And then some of them are like, broccoli cheddar soup, of course. But there's this kind of light bulb moment when they realize that everybody else in the room has had somebody die too.
Right.
And just this sense of belonging and that they're not alone.
Mm-hmm. What advice do you have for parents or guardians to help their child while they're grieving at home?
So the main things that we would usually recommend is being very honest and open. Kids are going to pick up on more than we anticipate. And so being honest about everything from the cause of death, also using concrete language. Kids are concrete thinkers, so euphemisms like passed away or went to sleep can often confuse them and lead to magical thinking that the person's going to come back. So using the words dead and died. And then also being okay with showing your own emotion, showing them that it's okay to have emotions and to express them, and also talking about the person, not treating it as a taboo subject or that they can't talk about the person that they're remembering and missing.
Ariana Walter of Secours Community Health. What a great conversation we had today about the Kids in Grief program. Thank you so much for sharing your time today. I think it was very valuable. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. And thank you everyone for joining us for this episode of Parenting Unscripted. Remember, you can watch new episodes of Parenting Unscripted every Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock right here on Wavy Plus. Be good.